we all lost this movie together. So we're mourning that too, which is it's tough. It's on a variety of levels. I mean, part of me wanted to just come back just to I think I'm going to try to go out to the ranch today because I just want to say goodbye.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Crime Circus Cult. My name's Drip Drop, and I'll be your host as always. Today, I present you the best actor in the entire world, the best to ever do it in Hollywood, Dean Winchester, aka Jensen Ackles. He's an A-list celebrity. Most movies and TV shows can't afford Jensen Ackles because he's the best in the world. He's better than Will Smith, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, or any other famous actor you can think of. Jensen Ackles is the best. There's no close second either. Jensen Ackles has a loyal cult following, and so do I. So I respect Jensen, and I bet he respects CrimeCircus too. He's starred in everything from Seventh Heaven to Smallville to the hit TV series Supernatural for over 15 years, and he was going to be the lead cowboy in the movie Rust. On the movie set of Rust, Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger. He made one person pass away, and he made another person get sent to the hospital with serious injuries. Somehow, a real bullet ended up inside of a prop gun, and that prop gun really fired a real bullet. It was Jensen Ackles' lifelong dream to play a cowboy in a movie, and this was going to be his dream come true. His dream turned into a real-life nightmare. I previously released this interrogation, but the body camera had a water bottle in front of it for 90% of the time. Now I am exclusively releasing the bird's eye view from that room. If you've seen it, great. If not, this is brand new to you, and if you want to watch it again, now it's a better camera angle, so hopefully it'll be a better viewing experience. I won't upload any more body cameras that have water bottles in front of the camera lens. Let's jump right into this and see what Dean, aka Jensen, has to say for himself about the shooting that happened on the movie set of Rust in New Mexico.
It's a young case, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
We're all
I'm
vaccinated.
triple vaxxed.
All right.
I got my booster even.
Yeah.
I guess all you guys gotta get that done.
Yeah. Did you just fly in this morning?
Literally landed about 45 minutes ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you fly into Santa Fe? How do you like that runway?
I mean, I've floated some pretty sketcy runways at the time. That was fine. Actually, coming here for the film, I was flying from Telluride.
Yeah.
And the only way to get here was to drive to Montrose to Denver to Albuquerque, drive to, and I was like, hang on. I was like, I'm sure there's some old cowboy that's got a plane that can just fly me over. So I did. They found this little company, and I flew in this single prop, literally next to the guy, with the
Nice.
all the way over, and we landed. It was pretty sketchy coming in on that one, but that was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I have flown in once into the Santa Fe airport, and I
Really?
never again.
What's wrong with it? It's fine.
I know it wasn't fine, but I have a slight fear of flying.
Okay, my wife is like that too. She's not a big drinker, but if she's gonna fly, she's like, I need shots just to get on the plane.
Well, yeah, I just feel like when I landed,
problem.
I was like, this runway is not level. It just seemed like a mess to me.
I remember I was flying into Atlanta one time, and it was for an event that they had chartered a plane for us. So it was a jet. It was a small jet, and the wind shear was so crazy that we were literally coming in sideways.
Oh, I've had that happen to
And
me.
then at the last second, he was like, nope. Came around and tried it again. So the second time it was just oh shit.
Yeah.
All right, time to brace yourself.
That was pretty sketchy.
That's how on Friday it was so windy out here. Our gas station pumps are kind of by the airport.
Yeah.
And that's how all the planes are coming in. They're coming in
Just coming in sideways.
angled.
Yeah.
That's
So sketchy.
That's New Mexico weather.
Yeah. Well, you got the big crosswinds here too.
Yeah.
Big open plains, right?
especially now with
Not a lot of trees.
So let me just start with if you could spell your first name for me.
Jensen.
And last name?
Ackles, Ackles.
What's your date of birth?
1978. which probably makes me the oldest in this room.
Hey, I'm born in March too. Also Pisces.
Pisces.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Fish, good people.
Yep.
Gemini's, not so much.
Oh, two sides to you, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what is your role or your title as far as this production goes?
One of the lead actors.
Okay. Any other
No.
secondary type things that you do?
Nope.
Not a similar producer as well?
Nope. And I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you guys know this, but like the producer thing often, and I don't know as far as Alec goes, but you know, in this industry, don't give kind of these ancillary titles to, you know, that's almost like a vanity thing,
Yeah.
you know, to an actor, just to like sweeten the deal so they'll sign on to become like, I know that I wasn't offered a producer credit, but I was offered some producer points, which is kind of like a back end kind of thing. But it was just, it's like to sweeten the deal to get people to sign on to do it.
Kind of like a co-producer.
Yeah, like that, like they would offer that kind of a thing in order to get a big actor to come on. But there's zero producing responsibility in that regard. So
Okay.
I did not have that title at all, but even if I did, I would have zero producing responsibilities. Yeah.
Okay. Let's just start with the day of the incident. Were you there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you kind of go through the day?
It was a normal day. I probably I have to look at the day out of days, which is essentially the schedule for the actors, what days they're working, what days they're off. But I'd probably safe to say that I had worked more than any other actor up to that point. My storyline was kind of the heavy focus of the first part of the filming. Alec's story was they were about to get into his stuff and was going to be shooting with him primarily for the next 2 weeks, and I was almost done with the film. I think I had like 3 or 4 days left. So up to that point, I had been on set almost, you know, the full time that they were filming. I think I may have had a day or two off, and we had gotten into shootouts and stuff prior to this. So, you know, I handled a gun almost every day. I mean, it was part of my costume. They would hand me a gun in the morning. I would check it. I would do my own checks, just because I've been in the industry for 25 years. I've had a lot of on-set and off-set training for firearms. So my quick check is if they hand it to me, they show me all of the dummy rounds in the wheel, and then I just take it. And armorers hate this, but I just dry fire it into the ground 6 times.
Okay.
That's my own personal check. They're like, "Oh, don't do that. It's going to hurt the firing pin." I'm like,
That's what they're made to do.
so what?
Yep.
I want to know that all of these are actual dummies. Not that I would ever think that a live round would be in a gun on a set. There's just not a world in which a live round should ever be on a set, period. Which is why this is so like crazy to me to comprehend how that's all I want to know. I could walk you through all the safety protocols, everything that I saw, everything that I went through. The only question I have, it's not like, oh, how did Dave miss this, or how did Hannah not get, it's how did a live round end up on a set? Multiple rounds end up on a film set. It's just, there's not a world in which that should happen. But the thing is, the problem is if you look at a dummy round, it's made to look like a live round.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a blank, it's crimped, has no tip. It clearly looks like a blank, but that has a charge in it. So you're looking for a clay tip that is to look like a lead tip, or a crimped tip, which is a charged bullet, or not a bullet, sorry, a charged round. If I look into the gun and I see 6 clay tips, then I can just assume that they're all dummies, because that's all that should ever be on a set. If I see a crimp tip, then I'm like, whoa, we got a hot gun here. Like there's a blank in there. Get that out of there. Which is why I feel for Dave, because I feel like he could have looked at it, given it a visual inspection, and saw 6 clay tips and not known that one was a lead tip with a charge in it. But again, there was clearly safety protocol that was skipped or missed because it should have been caught. Every round that's loaded into a gun should be inspected and can be inspected. Anyway, kind of went off on a tangent there. Sorry. I don't know. Tell me if you get if you need me to move on or something.
No.
I haven't really talked about this since it happened.
Okay.
So I'm kind of going through this too. I mean, I try to talk to my wife about it, but it kind of freaks her out.
Yeah.
And she gets pretty anxious about it, and she's like, I can't. She's like, if I'm watching the news, she's like, please turn that off. Please turn that off.
Right. It's a traumatic situation.
It is for us that were there, and for people that are in proximity. So that particular day, morning went per usual. We were shooting up at the church. Actually, we shot some other stuff the morning of. We had a slight delay in the morning. In fact, so much so that we got loaded up into a van at base camp and we're headed to set. And they turned the van around. They were like, wait, we're not ready for you. Everybody go back to base camp, the cast. And I heard that on the radio. I was like, what the fuck? That's weird. If maybe they had a camera, a lens issue or the light wasn't right, but at least bring us up there. It's going to be a 10-minute fix, whatever it is. Little did I know that it was the camera crew that was walking because they weren't. This is what I heard that morning from the producers because I went in and I was like, "Yo, what's happening?" And they were like, "A camera is walking because we won't put them up." I'm like, "Put them up where? What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, they're set up in Albuquerque. They want to be in Santa Fe because it's a longer commute, it's less of a commute. They want a lesser commute. It's in the contract that they don't get that. They're still in the zone. And if we do it for them, then we have to do it for all of the departments. And we don't have that in the budget. It's a small budget movie." So they threatened to walk, and they walked. I was like, "Well, when did they threaten to walk?" They were like, "This morning." They waited until one of our busiest days when we have a big giant shootout. They knew we were just coming off a 2-day break. They could have said it. They could have done it 2 days prior, given production 2 days to find replacements. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. They were smart. They're negotiating, and they showed up that morning with their equipment. They were like, "So, you gonna put us up?" And production was like, "No, we told you no." And they're like, "Okay, bye." And that's why they were like, "Send cast back to base camp. We don't have a camera crew right now. We gotta figure some shit out." So we went back and we got it was a 2-hour late head start that day, which was, we moved pretty quick. Especially for a low budget film like those tend to be high pace. So once B-Cam, Reed, who was Helena's guy from LA, he wasn't going to leave her. So he stayed, even though most people would have probably left in solitude or solidarity with the rest of their camera crew. But so we've got A-Cam, B-Cam. B-Cam is usually a guy that can also double with Steadicam. So A-Cam is more studio mode. Does this make sense to you guys? They left. B-Cam stayed, the operator. The focus puller didn't. He left as well. So we lost 6 out of the 8 camera people. Maybe it was 7, I forget. But Reed stayed, who's an operator. So finally they wrangled some focus puller to come in that more immediately. And we were able to continue the day with 1 camera. And so we started. First couple shots, me riding into town on a horse, hopping off, establishing shots, that kind of thing. And then we moved up to the church later in the morning. And the first few shots inside were facing me, so it was over Alec to me and my kind of deputy coming into the church, guns drawn, saying, stand up slowly, drop your weapons, that kind of thing. And then he basically slowly takes his gun out, thinking that he's going to, drop the weapon. And then he draws back on the hammer, jumps up, starts shooting at me. That's the scene. So we shot my coverage over him to me, both wide and both tight. And then we started to turn around, broke the lunch. So we went to lunch, came back, the first camera shot back was kind of a close insert of Alec pulling the gun out. And so I was standing not immediately on set because they were just setting this particular shot up. It didn't necessarily include me, but I would have been coming in for off-camera dialogue.
Okay.
I was not on camera, but I would have been off camera for the, telling him to put his guns down, that whole thing, which he probably didn't need me to do that, but that's just, what we do. So I was standing just outside the church, right off the porch there, when the gun went off. And again, they were just setting up a shot of him pulling out the gun and showing Elena, she was very kind of involved in every shot. This is, I'm used to kind of directors being a little bit more of like, okay, I want to see this. But Joel was more of like, this is the scene. Elena, how are we going to shoot it? And so she was really, for all intents and purposes, she was the meaning of director of photography. She was directing all of the camera shots, and she was very, very passionate and amazing at it. But she would get right in there. She would even like move me, like finding the light and stuff just right. So she was very, very hands-on. Some people don't do that. A lot of people don't do that. They'll just sit there, chair it behind the monitor and just be like, on the radio telling people to do things. But she was very hands-on. So she was standing right there next to Reed and looking at the monitor, on the camera, asking Alec to show her show me your action. So he was just showing her the action, and then it went off. I don't know if he was just drawing back on the hammer and his thumb slipped, and that was enough of a spring to get forward and hit that primer or what. But I'm sure he's told you. And so I heard the shot go off. There shouldn't have been any shot go off because it was a setup. There was no cameras rolling. There wasn't supposed to be around a blank to be shot in that particular camera sequence, and nobody yelled hot gun. So when it went off, it just sounded different. I mean, a real round sounds different than a blank, and I didn't immediately think that it was. I just was like, "What the fuck was that?" And so I spun into the church. I saw Joel down screaming. I saw Elena seated, and I could see her back was to me, but I could see the blood pooling on her khaki jacket. And so I just started yelling medic. And then that was about it. Then I stood back. I kicked myself for not running in there and doing something, but I don't know what I would have done.
No, I mean, the medics are trained professionals, and there was an on-set medic, so I mean...
There was, and that's why I was screaming for him. And I know that as the reality started setting in, at first I was like, oh, somebody, a shot went off. But there's no way that would have caused that much damage. Like, how are two people down and there's that much blood with a movie round? So I was just instantly like, what? And then as it started to settle, I was like, that was a real round. I know that sound. That's a real round.
Is that what it sounded? Because you made a comment about how it sounded different to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Doesn't it sound like a real round? Sound like a 45? I have a 45. I know what they sound like.
Okay. Did you see what happened with the gun after it was shot?
No, when I stepped in there, I saw Alex seated in the pew, holding just like, just in shock. Because it's also like a flashbang, right? I mean, that thing goes off. Everybody in there was deafened, and they were disoriented. I mean, when Mamie came out, who's our script supervisor, she was stumbling out, and she ended up being the one that called 911. There was a wardrobe person was in there. She came out. She was stumbling. She hit her knees. Reed was still in there. there was a few people that kind of staggered out, but it was disorienting. So I didn't go in because the medics were yelling everybody out, and Joel, our director, was actually yelling, get the fuck out, get out of here. So people were quickly exiting that didn't need to be there. So I didn't go back in there because I knew it was, I couldn't do anything at that point. So I just was standing back, and then I started helping move equipment to make way for responders.
Okay. Out of the church? Or
out of the way of the church. There was so much equipment around the front of the church,
okay.
and we knew that everybody was going to need access. So we started moving barricades, we started moving camera equipment, we started moving monitors, and I just threw my jacket, my hat off, and started helping grips and electrics, and everybody just started moving shit.
Okay. I want to back up to the beginning of the day.
Yeah.
Were you guys working with any of the firearms on the first half of the day?
Like I said, we get handed our gun belt and our firearm in the morning, and it essentially stays on our person because it's a part of our costume for the remainder of the day. If we ever are actually shooting it, then it gets taken. They load it with blanks. We usually are using half loads, and then it's well announced that there's a live, a hot gun, and how many rounds are hot at what load, what capacity, so that everybody's aware. But again, there's the few of us that were in the movie. We get handed essentially a prop, and it has dummies because I always personally check, and I was telling some of the other guys, I'm like, always check yourself. That's not why we're hired, and I was telling you this.
Yeah.
We're actors, and if it was left up to the actors to be the final line of safety and defense, then I wouldn't trust 99.9% people I work with, percent of the people I work with. But again, just from using a lot of firearms on set and also having real training, I just always do my own personal checks, just because it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What gun did you have in the morning?
I had it's 45. It's not the long Colt, but it's the one that has U.S. Marshal in the handle. I believe there are only two on set, but I think I don't know if it was, but I was told that was one of the ones you guys
Okay.
was mine.
And did you check that in the morning?
I did. I always do. Yeah.
Did it have anything in it?
Dummies.
Okay. And did you take the dummies out, or just did a visual check?
I did a visual check and did a click into the ground.
Okay.
And I also appreciate you walking us through what takes place during a film, because we're getting to know what actually takes place on film. This is a major case, and some people that we've spoken to have kind of walked us through what the procedure is. So I appreciate you letting us know what exactly takes place. We're starting to learn a lot more about what goes on in there.
Yeah. Any questions, and then I can that I can shed light on it. Happy to.
Cool. So who handed you the gun in the morning?
That particular morning, I believe Sarah Propt handed me my gun belt, and Hannah handed me my gun. She was not 100% of the time, but most of the time, the person that was handling the firearms. Sarah would help her and had a license to help her. This is something that I learned later. I just was, it's like, because I asked her that day, I was like, did you handle the gun? She was like, no. I was like, are you even supposed to handle the gun? She was like, yes, I'm licensed to do it. So I would help Hannah out. But from my recollection, Hannah was handling the guns 90% of the time. There were times when I would at lunch, we would always take our gun belts off and hand our guns back to props. or Hannah. So I would just take my whole belt off and hand it to either Hannah or Sarah, whoever was close by, and then they would take it and lock it up or do whatever they did with it at lunch, and then I would get it back after lunch.
During your time here during this whole production, has David ever handed you a gun?
No.
Or anybody else besides Hannah?
No. Well, Sarah, I think there were probably a couple of times where Sarah handed me the gun. Maybe I want to say that every morning Hannah would show me the rounds. She would pull the wheel lock back, slide the wheel, then show me each round, and then hand it to me. Then I would click into the ground, put it in my holster, and there it stayed until lunch.
Okay. And then, did they outfit you after lunch the day of the incident?
Yes.
Okay.
And I can't remember if I clicked into the ground that day. So I know I did that morning, but I've been racking my brain trying to figure out if I did my safety check after lunch, and I can't remember. And maybe that's just because it was a pretty crazy event that happened after lunch, and I'm just trying to think of. It's like flashes. Like I know where I was standing, I know what I saw, but for some reason I'm like, gosh, because I'd never overly thought about it. I'm like, gosh, did I check my gun when I came back from lunch? Like I normally do, I always do, but I can't remember doing it.
Who handed you the gun after lunch?
I don't know. I can't say with certainty.
Okay. And it's okay if you don't know, because we don't want to say or
Right.
have something in mind that didn't happen. So if you
That's what. Yeah. I mean, I could certainly. I could give a percentage guess, but it would. I don't know for certain that it was either Hannah or Sarah. It was one of those two.
Okay. And what about your belt?
It would have been the same person.
Okay. What did you do with it after the incident?
I took it off and handed it to Sarah.
Okay.
And she went and immediately. I saw her take it immediately to the cart.
Can you describe the cart?
It's just a rolling double-decker cart that has, a variety of props on it.
Do you remember the color?
No, blue maybe. Blue or black.
Did you see her set it down?
After the incident?
Yeah.
No, I handed it to her and then I went to work moving equipment.
Okay.
I said, here, take this. And then she was frazzled, and I saw Hannah on her knees, head in hand, like somebody was consoling her. And I was like, take this, put her in the cart, and then I just started moving shit.
Okay. Did you see what happened with the gun after it was fired?
Alex's gun?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Dave immediately, I heard Dave yelling, where's the gun, because he wanted to inspect it. And Hannah and Dave were handling it. I did see that.
Okay. Can you recall what they did?
They were still in the church, and I just remember Dave yelling, where's the gun? Let me see that. And then I don't remember anything after that. I don't remember what happened after that with that particular situation.
Okay. Going back to Hannah, so you've been working with her since the beginning of the set.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, or is there any other time that you witnessed that she was being unsafe and not following protocol? Is there anything that stuck out to you?
She was, in my experience, she was saying the things that an armorer would and should say. She was doing safety checks. There's levels, I think, to the intensity of armorers in our industry. I would say that the majority that I've worked with are like drill instructors and can scare the piss out of actors when they hand them any kind of weapon, whether it's like, whether it's supposed to be fired or not. I used to not like that. Now I'm thinking that I think that's a really good thing. So yeah, I would say that there wasn't that kind of intense fear that she was giving off. Again, like most of the ones that I work with are like very, they're either military, ex-military, ex-law enforcement. They've got a long history of gun handling and gun safety and gun training. And they do not care that you're a Hollywood actor or a name or anything like that. They are there to make sure that you know that this is a firearm that can hurt people, and you don't point it at anybody unless you are planning to shoot them. Aim it at a target. There's safety guidelines, and I think that's probably why I do things that I do with my prop. It's just because I've been dealing with armorers who are very strict and very experienced and very safe. I know that I was on a show for 15 years, and a lot of times I would have my gun on my person, but I wasn't actually firing off blanks. But I would have it, and I would need to rack it or do something in the scene. Well, the armorer, we don't necessarily need an armorer for that. On-set props person is licensed to handle firearms, but they're not licensed to handle ignition.
Okay.
That's when an armorer really is the special person. They are really responsible for the ammo. The gun is a prop. The ammunition inside the gun needs a specialist.
Okay.
And so my props person, on this particular project, would literally come up to me and shake every bullet in front of my face and then load it. Shake, because there's BBs inside, empty dummy rounds. You shake it like that, you hear the little rattle, you know that there's no gunpowder in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on this set or a previous one?
That was on a previous one.
Okay.
That never happened on this set. That being said, I don't know what is mandatory protocol for armorers. I just know what I've experienced. And I have experienced more safety measures on other sets than I experienced on this particular set. But again, I didn't feel unsafe.
Okay. And that was more, is there anything that you could point out that she did that would really
that was like being loose or cavalier?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I just know, like, me personally, I knew she was inexperienced. I could just tell, I knew that she clearly learned the lingo and knew the verbiage and understood gun safety from somebody teaching her that. But she's also the youngest armorer I've ever even heard of. So I knew that there was lack of experience there, but how are you going to get experience if people don't take things from you? So,
right, exactly.
So I was cool with it. I was like, good for you. I was like, good for you, kid. Like, getting in there and getting jobs and in a predominantly male-dominated field, and there she is. Like, so I was kind of like stoked for her.
Were you present during they call it the show and tell day of all the weapons? Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It was an afternoon. It was out on the set, out on the ranch. There was a big table set up with an array of weapons, handguns, long guns, and she was there there were boxes of blanks, and it was it was kind of a pick out your gun day. So, you know, it was, because again, this was part of the character, part of the costume. It was part of that building character aspect. It was the same thing as going out and picking out our horse. You know, we spent a day out. In fact, I did both those things in one day.
Okay.
I first went to the armor show and tell, picked out my gun, and then I went over to the horse ranch and picked out my horse.
Okay.
But in that show and tell, she asked me, do you have any, what level is your experience? And in kind of a, not a joking manner, but just kind of wanted to see where she was on the level.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's just assume not much. And she said, okay, this is how you load it. This is how we check it. This is how, you know, the gun works. This is the trigger. This is the handle. I'm like, okay, just kind of playing dumb. And she said all the right things. But it was more of just kind of an explanation. I don't know, there were a lot of safety measures that were explained to me, but it was just more of this is what a gun is. This is how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, if this is the one you like, I'll load it up with some rounds and you can just fire it off into the hill there. I said, okay, great. And these are dummies. No, sorry, these are blanks. They were not live rounds at all. So I think we were using half loads.
Okay.
And so I put my gun belt on and I took the pistol and she took it. She walked it out to this, you know, to the firing line, had me stand looking, facing downrange. And then she loaded in a full barrel, a full wheel, 6 shots of half loads. So I took it, put it in my holster, and then kind of a dick thing for me to do, but I did like a quick draw and did spun it and put it back in.
And the whole cowboy thing.
Full on. Even did the spin, spun the gun.
Like, what the
Well,
heck?
she just goes, okay, asshole. Like, you could have told me that you knew how to handle a gun. And so we laughed at that. And then she basically was like, you're good. Get out of here. Give me your gun.
So when
that
you
was
guys
that.
went down to do the practice shots, was it just solo? Did you guys have any other people with you?
There was a whole group of people. There was a couple of producers there. There was props was there. Sarah and I can't remember her assistant. I can't remember her name. She was there. Hannah was there.
But when you went down to shoot,
When I went to fire down range, I was the only person. Everybody else was behind me at the tables.
okay,
So we stepped out around. I stepped around the table, walked out probably a good 10 paces, and then aimed away from everybody. They were all like 6.
okay. Who was watching the guns while she would take?
While she was with me, props.
Okay. And what about the ammo?
That would have been all sitting right there in front of him on the table. Nobody was touching anything.
Okay.
Do you recall on the table what the rounds, the blanks were in, and what color of box?
No, I want to say I saw a white tray with just, like a 50 round kind of tray of rounds. I know that she had a variety because she did say that she was like, you want to start with quarter loads or do you want to do half loads? And I think I said, let's go full loads. And she's like, no, we don't have full loads. Those are too expensive. And I was like, ugh, low budget films. Because full loads are just funner. They're more fun. They just have a bigger blast, but they're also more concussive.
Yeah.
And did you watch anybody else go and practice with Hannah?
I kind of came in, there were a couple of actors there. Picking out their stuff as well. I don't think I saw anybody. I saw Travis shot one. Travis Femmel was there, and I think he popped off one round and was like, "All right, I'm good." But he's also somebody who's got a lot of training.
Okay.
I clearly knew he was somebody who
Was comfortable.
who was comfortable around weapons.
Okay.
Some of the other guys I think weren't, hadn't had a lot of experience. Some of the actors, and guns can be scary for people who aren't comfortable. Same thing with like a horse. I was seeing the same thing with the horses that I was with the weapons. Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, it knows that I'm scared. Why is it turning?"
Of course they do.
And I was like, because it knows you're scared. Yeah, it can feel the fear through your legs. I could tell the way that people were handling some of their guns too, that they just were, it was awkward.
Okay.
But again, I never felt the need to like speak up and be like,
You're not following.
put your fucking gun down.
Yeah.
Don't point it at me.
Were you there when Alec was doing
I did not see him.
practice? Okay.
I know that the gun was there because somebody went to pick that and they were like, no, that one's Alex.
Okay.
We're saving that one for Alec, I think.
Okay.
Was what they said.
What about any target shooting?
Nope.
None?
Mm-mm. That was the only time that I ever fired a gun when the cameras weren't rolling for this project. Was that day.
And you didn't see anybody like take guns out during lunch or after production hours? Anything of the sort?
No. And I know that's being talked about, because I've even got my wife is like, show him the text message. I'll show you kind of what I received. Where is it? Hang on. Where is it? Yeah, but I did hear that that someone may have taken the guns and done some target shooting or something, and that just seemed crazy to me. Like nobody messes with props during production unless it's scheduled.
Yeah.
Unless the producers are like, we need training for an actor. We need to take him out or take her out and teach her or him how to properly use and properly shoot. But this was a low budget thing. That wasn't happening. We didn't really get the opportunity to do that, nor did, in my opinion, did we miss it. I didn't need it. Could there have been some actors that would have benefited from that? Maybe, but they knew what they were getting into. This is a low budget film. It's like guerrilla shooting. You got to get on that horse and hope it goes the way you want it.
It's kind of scary when it comes to horses, but
And guns.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't find that text.
Keep looking for it.
I'm just curious, and this is a little off topic.
Yeah.
I know the day of the incident, we went out there.
Yeah.
Were you at base camp when we arrived, or
No,
because we didn't see you there?
I was just standing back from set.
Okay.
I was still there. I know they told everybody to go to base camp, but I don't know. It's not my MO to walk.
We're still trying to gather everybody that was close to the incident to interview. And
Yeah, I had moved away from the church, but was still in proximity, still watching. In fact, I think I even took a picture just as things were unfolding. I don't know why I did this, but I did. but this was kind of where I was in proximity. Like you can see the
Oh, okay, yeah, you can see the units and
helicopter coming in, and so I'd probably moved about 100 yards away, and we just
zoom in a little bit.
sure. You can zoom in.
Okay. So all this equipment was the equipment you were moving?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and moving it back towards that
The truck.
that box truck. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so as you guys were arriving, I was just kind of like moving back, and I walked back to the shuttle and was like gonna get in, and then I was like, no, I'm just gonna be pacing at base camp, wanting to see how they get Joel and Elena out, because at that point they were still conscious and they were still like, I didn't know, I never thought this would have been a fatal wound. I was like, okay, they got here quick. They're treating her. They're treating him on site. They're going to get them out. But I was standing by waiting for updates on what was happening inside, because I wanted to know what was happening with my director and my DP, who I've been
no, definitely.
working intimately close with for the past 3.5 weeks, every day.
What time did the day start that day?
Every day started around sunrise and it ended was at sunset. That was pretty much.
Do you know about what time you started?
I could go back and look, but I would have gotten there. Probably at 6:15, 6:30, somewhere in there, ready for 7:30.
Okay. And what time do you break for lunch?
6 hours after call. I think it was about, would have been 8 o'clock call maybe. So, yeah, 1:30 maybe. It's usually 6 hours after call, whatever call was that day, and I forget what it was.
Okay.
I usually come in early, so that I'm ready at call. They bring the actors in to get them processed, which is hair, makeup, wardrobe.
Okay.
But yeah, lunch is 6 hours after call, and then we would wrap usually at sunset.
Okay. Do you know what time you came back from lunch?
Not exactly. I do remember it being, well, I'll show you right now. So this happened, that was at 2 o'clock. Yeah, so we broke for lunch probably around 1, just after 1 o'clock. And it was, I believe, like a half-hour lunch, and then we came back.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of guesstimating.
How?
An AD would be able to tell you exactly, because they log all that stuff. Production reports have exact times on all that stuff.
How quickly after lunch did the incident take place?
It was the first shot. The first, I keep saying shot. It's like, I gotta come up with a better term for camera shot. It was the first setup after lunch, the first camera setup after lunch. So they turned around. They were now facing the other end of the church, not the door, opposite of the door. And they were starting with a tight insert of Alec pulling the gun out. And then I walk in, I have my few words. I think they were going to pull back to see Alec, because he just kind of pulls the gun out, does this, pulls back from the hammer, and then jumps up and starts shooting at me. So it was the first setup. So they were setting lights, they were getting cameras, they were picking out lenses, all that kind of stuff. Elena was right there, Joel was right there, Alec was right there, showing the action. This is what we do, and that's very, very normal procedure when you're setting up a camera shot. Is the actor goes through the action, what they're going to do. Then the DP says, okay, then I need a light over here, I need a bounce right here, I need the camera, I want it to be right here. Let's put a 50 mil lens on. The director's like, okay, and then we go into a camera rehearsal, which is not rolling, just let's see all the action with the camera. If there's a camera move. So the action with the camera move, boom. Okay, great. Let's roll sound. Let's do a take. So this was the preliminary setting up the shot.
Okay.
We weren't even into rehearsal yet.
Did you see who handed Alec the gun after lunch?
No.
What about putting his belt on, anything of the sort like that?
No.
Okay.
Because again, I was just outside the set. I was in there for a little bit, like watching him kind of like do some setup stuff.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh, okay, they're just setting up. So I just stepped outside to get some, air because it got pretty dusty. It gets pretty dusty in there.
Yeah.
During rehearsal, when Alec was sitting on the pew after lunch, was the gun supposed to be loaded with dummies, or was it no rounds in the chamber kind of thing?
It should have been loaded with dummies.
Okay.
Yeah, he was not, we weren't getting into the firefight for that particular setup. I would imagine the next setup would have been, we would have loaded our guns with blanks, and we would have gotten into to firing off our pistols. So this was supposed to be, it should have been full of dummies, because it was going to be a tight shot of the gun with those guns, because they're so old and rudimentary. You can see the brass. So you can see the brass, you can see the tips, you see the bullets. So they would have been loaded with dummies to look like real.
To make the appearance of that it's loaded.
To make it look like it's loaded with real bullets.
Did you ever see the dummies on the set? Did you see what they look like?
I certainly saw the ones in my gun every morning.
Okay.
Because my gun was loaded with dummies every morning. But I never, I can't remember if I ever walked over them. I mean, yeah, I walked over to the camera, or I'm sorry, not the camera car, the props car, to either to receive my belt and gun, or to hand it off at the end of the day or at lunch. And I remember seeing ammunition boxes there on the card. But I wouldn't be able to tell you more than that.
Well, you had mentioned earlier that they had clay tips. Did the ones that you saw have clay tips?
I would have no reason to think otherwise.
Okay.
Without giving them in like a really intense inspection, I wouldn't. I would have looked at the tray of bullets. The tray of dummy rounds, and assumed that they were all dummy rounds, and you could have very easily mixed in a half a dozen live rounds in there, and I wouldn't have known the difference from a visual inspection. I would have had to take them out, either shake them or inspect the what do they call the brass ring on the back?
The primer?
Not the primer.
No.
But yes, it was the primer. All dummies have punch primer.
All the punch primers.
Yeah. So yeah, which I've done before, but I hadn't really done on this project, nor I felt the need to do it.
If it's a clay tip, what color is it?
It's made to look exactly like a live round, so it would be that
So
gray.
it looks like iron. Okay. You had said that the guns were loaded every morning. Did you ever see who loaded them?
I only ever witnessed Hannah loading them.
Okay. Did you see her load them that morning?
I can't remember. And I wouldn't be able to tell you what mornings I did and what mornings I didn't. I just know that if I was happening to walk by the props guard and seeing her at work, I wouldn't have really taken notice. It's just everybody's work. Everybody's doing their job. People are setting up lights. People are moving boxes. People are, setting up their cameras. She's loading up her weapons. Like that was her job. So it wouldn't have stood out to me.
Okay. How many days prior to incident day did you guys do live fire? And by live, I mean the blanks.
Movie fire. A handful. The day before we did live fire, I got shot. Travis Fimmel, his character, shoots me in the shoulder, and so we did. He fired off a half load at me, but I felt safe. I was more than 20 feet away, which is usual industry protocol, and it was a half load, so it wasn't going to be a large concussion. And I didn't have to do a squib. I just did a spin to the ground.
Okay.
But then in addition to that, Alec also fired that day. This was the day before. Also fired that day. But again, those kinds of instances, they'd be taking out the dummy rounds and putting in crimp tip blanks. So very clearly not doesn't look like a real bullet. Mm-hmm. The sole purpose of having a muzzle flash. And when that happens, when they take out the dummies and they put in the crimp tips, then it's, you got a hot gun, 6 rounds, everybody's safety, everybody get back, you don't have to be on set, get out. Camera, if they are close, once I did a shot very close to camera, and they put up a protective, Lexan. I had I shot off a shotgun at one point, and our A-camera operator, Andy, was very close. And I was like, we need to get more. I need more stuff for him. I didn't feel comfortable. I was like, I need more stuff for him. Very common. I've done that many times, like where the camera guys are like, oh, I can get in here. And I'm like, no, I'm not shooting at you that close. And that's just because a lot of it's just, really the biggest threat from a movie gun is gunpowder dust getting sprayed in your eyes and burning your eyes. This is really the only threat. The wadding thing, that's a thing of the past. We don't use that stuff anymore. Mm-hmm. So really the safety measure is to protect people's eyes, and also if you're too close, and I'm using a shotgun, I use a full load, I feel like getting hit in the chest just from the concussion of the blast. Yeah. If you're too close, which might injure you in some way, shape, or form. I don't know, but still, I feel comfortable when I know that there's protective stuff in front, and nobody's in harm's way. And like I said, we had a shootout maybe a week prior to this, where I think I let off 2 half loads on the shotgun, dumped the long gun, and then drew a pistol and fired off all 6 rounds. Okay. But again, all blanks. And then when it was prior to that, it was loaded with dummies, and was always loaded with dummies just so it looked like it had bullets in it. Right.
What about the accidental discharges that happened?
Didn't hear anything about that. Had no idea what people were talking about. Okay. I don't know if that happened. Then it's strange that I didn't hear about it, because, like I said, I was on set most of the time. So A, didn't happen while I was there. I didn't witness anything like that. And B, I never even heard about it. So I don't know if...
What about that squib that went off?
Yeah, I do remember that. And again, like, that kind of stuff happens. Like, my gun jammed on the firefight. Like, guns jam all the time. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of stuff is normal on a movie set or on a TV set that's dealing with firearms. You instantly yell cut as an actor. I would just yell. I was like, cut, got a jam. And I would literally just aim towards the ground, and the armorer would come over and take it from me and fix it. Reload it. Okay, we're good. All right, roll sound. Very, very commonplace for that stuff to happen. That's not I wouldn't chalk that up as a safety issue. Okay. That's just guns doing what they do.
Okay. What about, did you ever, I know you guys have like safety bulletins and stuff.
Mm-hmm. There's a safety meeting every morning.
And there was one
every morning
for this production?
Every morning.
Who hosted them?
Dave.
Okay.
Dave. That's the first AD's job, is to host a safety meeting every morning. I'm not usually, actors are not usually there, but it's not for us, it's for the crew.
And I'm guessing that's when they hand out, ear protection, eye protection, if you guys are gonna shoot half loads or
They tell
quarter
you what,
loads.
yeah, we're gonna have live animals on set today. We're gonna have live gunfire. We've got strong winds coming this afternoon. We want everybody to safety their equipment. That's the safety meeting. It's for the crew to let them know what we're dealing with today. If there's any safety concerns, where you go, who you need to talk to. Ear and eye safety equipment will be available. This is where it's available. Like all that, and that happens every morning.
And you were there for.
I was not there. Was I there for that day? I can't remember if I was there for the safety meeting that day, but I know I walked in on the safety meeting multiple times because they would call us to set, and I'd arrive on set while they were giving the safety meeting.
Do they post it like anywhere else on, your call sheets, or do they send you guys like a protocol of like, hey, today we're dealing with live animals, therefore these are your protocols?
Call sheets. That's on the call sheets.
And you saw it on these call sheets?
I mean, again, like it doesn't really pertain to me, so I kind of skip over it. But I do know that it is
Supposed to be there?
it is there and usually there, and it probably was that day. Those are easy to get. You can get those call sheets. I'll have those on file so you can see whether or not the safety guidelines were there that day or whether they even needed to be. That's probably an OSHA thing,
Okay.
Any of the actors ever complain that were handling a revolver ever complain about a faulty hammer on the gun? No.
Not to me.
Do you know, so that cart that props and the armor uses? Where is it normally?
Close by set.
Okay.
It's essentially their work cart. Everybody has kind of their workstations. There's a camera cart. There's a grips cart. There's an electrics cart. There's a props cart. Everybody has their kind of rolling workstations that wherever the set is that rolls with them and goes there, and that's where they base their operation out of, is from that cart.
Okay. Did you happen to see that particular day, where that cart was during, or where is it supposed to go during lunch? Do you know?
Well, the cart would stay put, but they would, and I don't know this. I don't know if this happened. I can't say yes or no, but I just know, generally speaking, they would safety guns particularly and rounds particularly during lunch. They would go lock them up, put them in a lockup like at the truck.
Okay. Did you see anybody do it that day?
I did not, nor did I see them do it any day, but it's just because I wasn't looking.
Okay.
That's not to say that it didn't happen every day. I would imagine it would have happened every day.
Okay.
That's pretty standard protocol.
Is there, obviously we're dealing with this whole issue with camera crew.
Yeah.
And then I said that they had walked off. How many people did you see from that camera crew that morning?
None, because I wasn't on set when the situation happened.
Okay.
We were back at base camp. We were told to come to set and then got turned around and went back. So my only account of what happened was just from later going up to the producers going, what the fuck?
But you didn't observe any of them there?
Nope.
Okay.
I observed them on previous days. One in particular, just bitch. She was just, he was just kind of a whiny bitch.
Okay.
To put it simple. I recall rolling my eyes at several of his little outbursts of a variety of things.
Okay.
Lunch wasn't big enough. That kind of shit. Like, really, go to craft service. There's food galore all day long.
Yeah.
You're well fed. Calm down.
Yeah.
I'm like, we get well fed when we go work on
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
So-
That's what I'm saying. Like, anybody who's complaining about the food on a film set is a whiny bitch.
Okay. Is there anything that would lead you to believe that one of these camera people would have brought live ammo?
I think, I know we're probably not supposed to give opinions, but in my opinion, I just find it very hard to believe.
That they would bring it on set?
that they would even have access to it.
Okay.
Most camera guys they're nerds. I mean, I love camera guys. I'm a nerd too. Like I'm a geek about that stuff. But these aren't guys that go out and get live rounds from a gun store and then plant it on set. That seems like a bridge too far for me.
Is there anyone that you think would bring live ammo?
In a malicious way? No. I can't. If you pointed out to anybody on the crew and said this person maliciously brought and planted live ammo, I would be shocked, because I don't think there's not anybody I could point to and be like, that guy kills cats on the weekend. Like, he's a problem or she's a problem. Mm-hmm. None of them. They were all film technicians. They're all film nerds. We all are. Yeah, that's why it's just so shocking to me. That's why I'm like, that's largely responsible why when you said, hey, can you come out to Santa Fe? I was like, yeah. Because I want to know how did this fucking happen? So if I can shed any light to give you guys any kind of a leg up in finding out how live, because people are like, how did the safety protocol break down? How did that happen? I'm like, that's the question is, how did live rounds end up on a set? That's all I care about. Because had a live round not ended up on set, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Of course, but at the same time,
safety.
People have their
the protocols did get skipped. Absolutely, that should have been found, and that unfortunately is the person who was hired to safety the ammunition, which is a specialty job, and that person didn't catch the fact that there were live rounds mixed in with dummy rounds. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see Alec messing with his firearm?
No.
Or acting in a reckless manner with it?
I didn't.
Because I know you had said that you're showing how he was practicing with it.
Well, he was just doing what he was rehearsing what he was going to do in the scene, mm-hmm. so that Alina and Reed could see it and set a camera angle. So he was being asked to do exactly what he was doing.
Okay.
He wasn't just playing with it.
Right.
This was deliberately pulling it out and aiming it at a certain way to catch the light right and have the camera angle perfectly. She was probably like, wait, just angle it like that, looking at the monitor, just maybe 2 degrees that way. But no, bring it back a little bit. Okay, that's the light. That's what she's doing at that point.
Okay.
And again, I don't know the intimate details at that point, whether he drew back on a hammer and it slipped, or whether he drew the hammer back and squeezed the trigger. That doesn't make sense to me, because he wasn't firing a shot at that particular moment in the scene. He would have just been getting ready to, and then he jumps up and shoots at me.
Speaking of that, are you guys ever, trained or go over when you're just rehearsing trigger safety? Or do you always practice it? Are you doing it with, fingers?
I always flag the trigger. But that's just me.
Okay.
And to answer your question, no. But I do that because I've had real world training by law enforcement and other military and stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, I've done the whole CHL course, but I didn't even apply for my license. I just wanted to do the course.
Yeah.
And I had a friend in law enforcement who was putting on a weekend thing, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Especially in Texas, man. Everybody owns guns.
Everybody owns guns. Yeah.
So how do you think?
But no, as far as trigger safety goes,
not really discussed. Okay. How do you think this live ammo will go on set?
That's what I want to know. I'm sure you've heard all the rumors that I have, and probably more, of somebody maliciously planning it, which I'd be shocked if that's what it was. Somebody trying to ruin an Alec Baldwin film because he's polarizing in his political beliefs in real life. It seems like a pretty extreme thing to do. And then I've also heard that Hannah took the guns and went plinking with some of her friends or some crew, and then got intoxicated and didn't remember putting everything back, and could have mistakenly loaded real rounds with her prop dummy rounds and just not and forgot about it the next day and came back and been like, oh, here's my dummies.
Did you ever witness her drink?
Huh.
What about anybody else?
That's not true. There was one evening where a large part of the cast and crew ended up at the same bar in Santa Fe, and I did see her there.
But that was upset.
Yeah, that was on a weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That was the
she
only
hadn't mentioned
that was the only
anything
time I ever saw her upset.
Okay.
And most of those people.
And she hadn't mentioned anything about going out and
No.
doing any sort of. Who is ultimately in charge of safety?
On the set? From an overall standpoint, the first AD.
So David. Okay.
He would be the generalized safety guy, but then there are specialty people that are the horse wranglers. He's responsible for the safety of the horses. I mean, if the horse takes off, Dave's not the one who goes and gets it.
Yeah.
That's what we have horse wranglers for.
Yeah.
And we had that happen multiple times, where a horse bucked loose and took off running, and they had to go chase him down.
Sounds like some untrained horses.
What's that?
So it sounds like some untrained horses.
Yeah, they weren't overly trained.
Okay.
They weren't overly
Who provided the horses?
I forget. I don't know the name of the outfit. I just remember the names of the wranglers.
The guy from the Love U? Do you know?
Right down the street from the ranch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I used to wrangle for him, and yeah, he had some pretty. He always put me on
Oh, really?
trouble horses.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to each other in there.
Yeah. They put me on a trouble horse because I'm not afraid. I have confidence around horses.
Yeah.
I'm not an amazing rider, but I was comfortable. I'm comfortable around horses. But again, going back to the safety aspect of it, Raleigh was the lead wrangler, and he was in charge of horse safety. Alan was in charge of stunts, so he was in charge of any kind of stunts that were happening with the actors or the stunt people. I didn't do a whole, for instance, when I got shot, I did a spin and hit the ground. And it's how his responsibility to come up to me and go, do you need pads? Do you feel comfortable? Blah, blah, blah. Not Dave. He's kind of the umbrella safety, but then there are specific people that are designated to safety specific aspects of the filmmaking. So again, Alan would have been for stunts, Rolly would have been for horses, Hannah would have been for ammunition.
Did you ever hear any complaints about gun safety?
No, and I was surprised to hear that.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can think of that, would stick out or, that might help us out?
It'd be speculative. I'm sure you guys are getting all that. I didn't, again, I personally felt safe, but I will say that it was largely because of
Your experience?
my personal safety measures. It was a little loose. As far as the gun safety goes, from my experience. But I've also been part of big budget things that have highly qualified and experienced people doing these jobs.
Did you ever see anybody overly pressuring Hannah?
To do
Anything? Like to where she would have felt intimidated or...
No, she seemed to have, she was, you know, she had a kind of a cocky confidence air to her. You know, she strutted around. She was the armor, probably one of the youngest ones there are. So she wore that a little bit outwardly.
So she never seemed uncomfortable with anything that was being asked of her?
No.
Or anything that she was doing?
No, she seemed very confident in everything, and there was no stuttering or shiftiness or hesitancy on her part. That's why I was like, I felt like she had the confidence, and she was saying all the right words and doing all the right things, and if she didn't know what she was doing, she was certainly faking it well.
Going back to Hannah, sorry, go ahead.
So with her, I'm sure you've seen the statement that she's released.
Yeah, saying that she was not given the time or
and that she was pressing for training,
right,
and stuff like that. Any knowledge to that?
Which, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's bullshit, because this was a low budget. Same thing, the same reason I think that the camera crew walking off was bullshit. They knew what they were signing up for. It's a low budget movie. There's not budget for putting everybody up for 4 seasons. I'm sure they'd like to do that, but they can't do that. They don't have money. The financiers gave a certain amount of money. That's how much we had to get it done. Everybody who came on the show, everybody came on this movie knew that it was going to be tight. I would have loved to have had 3 weeks of horse training, but I didn't. I had half a day, I had an afternoon to pick a horse out and ride him around and get comfortable. And then the next day I was on camera on the horse. That's not her. I mean.
So you never heard her like requesting any?
I mean, I wouldn't have been privy to that. If she was having private conversations with the producers going like, I really need, I need Jensen for a half a day. I need Alec for a day. And again, I would never have expected that phone call on a project like this. I knew they were hiring me for what I could do. They asked me, have you ridden horses before? I was like, yeah. Okay, we know, we've seen from your work that you've clearly handled guns before, so we know you're good there. So I feel like there was, a part of why I was hired was because of my experience and comfortability with this, and not needing additional training, not needing to come out 3 weeks early and rehearse with horses and with weapons, and even rehearsing with the dialogue. Mm-hmm. We didn't even get rehearsal. That's something that big budget movies get. You come in, you rehearse with the director and the actors for weeks, and then you go to camera. Didn't get any of that. We were lucky to get a rehearsal before we rolled camera.
It's pretty much like, here's your papers.
Yeah. It's like, here's your script. These are the words you're saying. Here's your gun. This is when you're shooting. And here's your horse. Good luck, cowboy.
Hope you can envision it in your head.
Yeah. And I hope you can envision it in your head. And I hope you can pull it off. Yeah. I mean, I think the second day I was on that horse, they were like, okay, run up to that ridge and then just come screaming down at us.
Okay.
And so I was, riding, trying to keep my hat from flying off, so, eyes down, trying to get that. And then we were going, and my poor horse hit one of those groundhog holes and just went down, and the whole horse went pitched forward, and I was like, here I go.
Yeah.
And then I just yanked up at the last second, and he lifted up right at the last second, and I was just, I know I held it together because I looked at the playback, and it was like right where. But inside I was screaming like a little kid.
Oh, it's kind of fun when horses do anything unexpected.
Yeah, but again, we all would have loved rehearsal on a variety of levels.
I'm sure it helps build the bond with everyone too.
Sure, but we knew that that's not what we were going to get with this project. Everybody knew that.
You had said, all right, so, and I know you talked about, Hannah always said the right thing. She's always, having correct terminology, everything of the sort. The day of the incident, after lunch, when you guys got out your gear and everything of the sort, did anybody call out, cold gun, hot gun, anything of the sort like that?
I know that's been reported that Dave yelled cold gun. I was just standing off set, so I didn't hear that, but he wouldn't have needed to scream it to everybody outside the set. He would have just, if in fact he handed the gun, which I think he is admitted to, which, if my recollection serves me, I thought I remember Hannah walking into set with the gun. And in my mind, and I don't know if I'm just filling in blanks here because I didn't see it, or if I did see it, like one of those things like, did I see that, or am I just filling in a blank? The set was so, like, Alec was here, the camera was here, Elena, Joel, Dave was here, and so Hannah came in from the back. It would have made perfect sense for her to be like, here's Alec's gun, and him go, okay, great, thanks, here you go, cold gun. Or looked at it, seen her, did a check. I don't know if that happened or not. But it's just a way because Hannah couldn't get into him.
Okay, but you didn't see it.
But I feel like I saw that, but I can't remember if that's exactly how it happened or not.
Okay.
But I know that Hannah was right there, and if she was right there, then there would be no reason for Dave to have walked over to the cart, because I know where the cart was. The cart was, if this is the church, here's the entrance. There were tents right here where cast chairs were. The cart was on the back side of that.
Okay. And you're talking about those black pop-up tents?
Yes.
So it was on the back side of those?
Yeah, that's where Bob's cart was.
Okay.
So it was, a good, like 30, 50 yards away from the entrance of the set.
Okay. How far, distance-wise, between Alec and the camera and then Helena and Joel?
Camera was right in there because it was a close-up. It was like literally just shooting his chest because he was throwing out the gun like this, right?
Okay.
So the camera.
Here, let me give you a.
Well, I want distances, so that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was Alec here, camera there, Elena there, Joel there, Reed sitting on the camera, and then there was,
And where was Dave?
Dave would have been here, if I remember correctly. And then there was like, Scripty was here, Wardrobe was over here. There was a couple of others. I think Serge was right there. So when Alec fired it, it went like that. And then, here was the front of the church. And then this was the back of the church. The camera was probably 4 feet.
So it's really close.
Oh, she was right there. It was this close.
Okay.
It was this close. That's why 45 rounds goes right through her. She's not a big girl. And it's not surprising I went through her.
Any animosity between Alec and Helena?
Oh, God, no. No, everybody loved her.
Okay.
And I had just started working with him. Like I said, we were shooting kind of my side. I don't know if you know the story, but he's like an old outlaw who's surfaced, presumed dead, but has surfaced, and is on the run, and I play the U.S. Marshal that's tasked to track him down. So we were shooting a lot of my side of the story, which didn't involve him because he was on the run and I was tracking him down, right? Mm-hmm. So we had just gotten to filming the sequences where I've caught up to him. And that's the point in which I catch up to him. The day prior was we shoot out a sequence. That's just normal film and television. We shot the scenes that are after this one of we get into a gunfight in the church. He sneaks out the back and then takes off down into an arroyo, and then I give chase. We shot that stuff the day before. And then we're shooting this the day of.
Okay.
But again, you were asking proximity, so yeah, I would, if I remember correctly, I think she was probably about 4 feet away from when it went. And then Joel just behind her.
How many shots did you hear?
Just one. And I was told that there was only the one live round in the gun. The other 5 were dummies.
And, you know, we have to send those to the lab just to ensure.
Because I remember Dave yelling for the gun, like, "Where's the gun? Where's the gun? I want to see it." So he then inspected it, but I don't remember what he did with it after that. Like I said, yeah. Were there any live rounds in my gun, or is that to be determined?
You had the U.S. Marshal one. We have so many of them that
Oh, really?
they're still processing.
Okay. That would be interesting to know, because I clicked my rounds that morning when I had the gun, and I don't remember clicking it when I got back from lunch. So if there were live rounds in my gun.
And you just had one gun on you, right? You weren't throwing with the double.
Just the one. So if there was one, if there was lives in mine, that would be very suspicious, because there would have been no reason for someone to have changed those dummies out over lunch.
They don't empty them before lunch?
I don't know.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question about going back to Hannah. Going back to Hannah, do you recall her or witness her ever handling the weapons unsafely, like in bundles or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, they would have, those poor girls would have gun belts just draped on them, you know. They'd have to be like, okay, here's, you know, this actor's, and then here's this actor's, and here's this actor's. So, you know, Sarah would have all the gun belts. Hannah would also have the gun belts. They were helping each other out. But again, at that point, they're essentially props until they get loaded with ammunition, and then it becomes an armorer's responsibility.
Is it uncommon for them to be carrying multiple, or like in your experience with other films, is it uncommon for them to be carrying multiple guns or multiple belts, anything of the sort? So there's nothing that's saying like you have to carry one gun.
Only one at a time. No. In fact, I don't. In my experience, I've seen that from multiple armorers and prop people. They'll even have like a bag or a you know, some sort of a carrying mold, and they'll dump multiple weapons into it. But because these were in holsters, they would just leave them in the holsters and then put the bandoleros, the holsters kind of over their shoulders, and then walk them back to their cart or walk them back to the truck. But yeah, it was very common for them to like walk out on set and distribute the gun belts and the pistols to the actors.
Do you know how many were distributed after lunch?
It would have been just Alec, me, and Swin.
Swin?
Swin played like my deputy. He played his character's name was Drum, short for Drummond.
Did you see anyone outfit him? No.
Not that I recall. I mean, we might have been given a gun. We might have been given our belts and guns at the same time. I don't know. It was pretty usual because he and I were partners and in a lot of scenes together, so we would get our equipment at the same time. But he wasn't required for that particular setup because he didn't have any dialogue. So he was a little further away than I was. He was just kind of standing by waiting for the next setup to happen. But I was a little closer just because I was walking in and getting off camera dialogue.
Okay. But he did have a weapon after lunch.
I think so. I'm not sure. they could have, because he wasn't in that first shot, they may not have given it back to him. They may have waited until he was gonna be needed.
Did he only have one weapon on him?
Just
too?
like me, yeah.
Okay.
Same style gun too,
The other martial one.
correct.
Okay. So maximum of 3 guns out after lunch. That were
Yeah.
on people.
Yeah, because those were the only, we were the only actors on set at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't think Brady, I mean, he didn't have a gun, but Brady wasn't even there, I don't think. He was the young kid.
If anybody would have had like a major safety issue, and I'm just assuming like pretty much anyone could call out like that they feel something's being unsafe. Or that
Anybody, yeah, if something's unsafe, anybody. Usually it is department heads that will, if it's something that needs to be addressed, then it is the responsibility of that crew member to either go directly to the first AD or for that crew member to tell the department head, and the department head goes to the first AD, and then it is up to the first AD to then tell the producers, and it goes on up the chain.
okay. So wasn't any revamping during this entire time of safety protocols or gun protocols or anything of the sort like that?
No.
Do you have any questions for us?
So many.
You can ask. I can't guarantee we can give you exact answers, but I mean,
No, my question is, you guys can't answer it. It's like, I mean, my biggest question is where'd the rounds come from? You know, if it was,
I think I have a good intuition, or at least just from statements given and speaking with others, I might have a pretty good idea. It's just a matter of confirming that they are the same style round.
but it's the same style round.
That is, yeah, so we have to send them to the lab and get them pulled.
My lab,
Well, we're lucky that we didn't set.
high profile case. What are you guys doing? Let's do this.
Hey, you reach out to the lab for me, and we'll go from there.
Happily.
But yeah, no, our lab here is like a year and a half to 2 years back up. So
Yeah.
that's why we use that guy lab.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, wait, we gotta wait a year and a half for this? We're gonna get answers quicker than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll probably be at least a couple months, but not a year and a half to 2 years time.
Okay, that would be torture.
Yeah, I don't really want to do that to everybody.
Well, it's also, you know, it's been really difficult for not just me, but a lot of the other people that are part of this cast included to watch the media spin and see the shit that they're reporting on, which is, as we all know, you know, they're
The
in
media is the media.
yeah, they're not in, it's not about news anymore, it's about sensationalism.
Yeah.
And so any kind of uncorroborated claim is now getting reported, and people report bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating for someone like me who can say that's bullshit, but
Can't
shouldn't.
really, yeah.
They make
No.
it sound good, to where people actually believe
Well,
it.
because then
But
it's like anything I say then is all of a sudden spun. It's like, oh, he's being complacent, or he's being sensitive to a certain person, or he's, whatever. And then now I'm the face of that news cycle, and it's like, I don't want that. And so it's like, we got to keep our mouth shut, and we got to just talk to you guys. But it's really frustrating to watch the news and have all of those hypotheses reported on, because I'm just like, come on, lab,
yeah.
something, like give us an answer so we can shut everybody up.
Well,
And-
yeah, I mean, it comes down to that, and then of course getting, statements from others involved as well.
Are you guys having any others come in?
We still need to interview a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Pretty much everybody that we can.
So I was kind of the the first one to come back for this.
Yeah, just to kind of give you, a time span of when you were able to come in according to your schedule. So I wanted to contact you right away and have you pick. So, but I mean, it happened fast, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, really the faster that we can get to everyone. And
Well,
but I mean, it
that's
is
the
about
thing.
getting all these, Sarah and Hannah and everybody, like, speaking with them again and
And starting to get more
Questions answered.
detailed questions answered.
right.
Yeah. I really want to try to find that text message.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice.
But I can't.
What was it, or what was the context of it?
It was about Hannah going off and taking the guns outside of set and playing with them.
Like rumor or somebody that had actually been a part of that? Or
Let me see. That's not it.
do you remember who sent it?
It was our costume designer. And it was, I guess, something that Sarah had said.
Did you receive that text message before the incident took place or after?
Oh no, this is after. This is how to live rounds get on set, and then somebody saying, "Well, I heard," or there was an email, or something to that effect.
You can always screenshot it and send it to me if you find it too. What's a good way to get a hold of you if you have any other questions?
You got my number, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
He's got my number. Yeah, you guys can call me anytime. I'll see if I can't find it. I thought it was where I thought it was, and it's not there. So let me see if I can't find it. But yeah, I was essentially saying that. And again, I have no reason to believe this or not believe it, but it was just, you guys are trying to uncover any possibilities. It was that Hannah had requested use of the firearms over the weekend to go shooting and was denied. Something about that being in an email, but then she went ahead and did it anyway and talked to the transpo guy, opening up the props truck and her getting access to it, and then taking him out and doing some target practice, but then was, I guess, got intoxicated and doesn't remember putting them back. Or
That's a lot of quite a bit of speculation if that was.
it is,
Yeah, we haven't had anybody actually come forward and
and say that.
specifically say.
Yeah, that seemed. I was like, okay, well, that's probably easy to figure out. You go talk to Transpo, you find out if there was actually a guy that opened up the truck for Hannah on a weekend.
Oh, even finding that, even the email.
Somebody find that email, which would have been props.
So it would have gone to like Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll have to
But again, that's not from me. This was kind of a
word of mouth.
word of mouth scenario that came my way, and I was like, huh. That seems more probable than
Well,
some.
over a week later, we haven't had anybody
come forward to say that.
To confirm it or
So then maybe it was just hearsay.
do you have any other questions for us?
I don't think so.
I put my work cell on the back of my card.
Cool.
That way, if you do have any questions or anything else start moving forward, we can go there. Have you talked to Dave? Or
I saw Dave at our little memorial thing that we had the day after. And he's a wreck. He was really shook up. I just remember saying, I'm so sorry, man, because I know it happened on his watch. And I enjoyed working with him. I thought he was good. I thought he was a really good AD. I mean, they've got one of the toughest jobs in the industry because it's their set. They're running the set, and they're responsible for so much. And if something happens like this, they instantly get fingers pointed at them. Even if he had never touched the gun, he still would be he still would be getting fingers pointed at because he's the guy. It's his set. He's running the safety of that set. And I just remember saying to him that I'm just so sorry, man, that this happened to him because he my experience with him was a very positive one. And I don't like seeing stuff like this happen to good people.
right. It sounds like you didn't have a negative experience with really anybody on set though.
No,
Besides
I'm pretty amicable.
besides your one cameraman.
Yeah, but even still, I tried to be nice and make friends with him just because I thought maybe he needed somebody nice in his life. I don't know. I really love what I do. I really enjoy being on set. I mean, I think I told you this over the phone. I was pretending to act like Clint Eastwood, but inside I was jumping around like a 6-year-old. I was so excited to be able to play a cowboy and ride horses and shoot guns. And I mean, growing up in Texas, in Dallas, I noticed your Cowboys watch there.
That game was pretty good last night, so
They're looking good.
I know. Even with Dak out.
But I mean, I this was a dream for me to do a Western. And so I was just super excited to be there and was having a ton of fun with everybody. Just to other people, it was just a job. It was just a paycheck. But not to a lot of us. To a lot of us, this was something really unique and fun. I mean, even Alec had said, he was like, I've never done a Western. I've always wanted to do one. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of us that felt that way. So if I saw somebody that was just kind of like, I just try to cheer them up and be like, what's the problem, man? We're out. It's beautiful. Look at this weather, this sky. We're shooting a Western. Get over yourself. Yeah. So yeah, no, I had a pretty positive experience up to that point with everybody, and it breaks my heart that this happened on a variety of levels. I mean, that we lost an incredible talent and friend, but also that we all lost this. We all lost this movie together, so we're mourning that too, which is tough. It's on a variety of levels. I mean, part of me wanted to just come back just to like I think I'm going to try to go out to the ranch today because I just want to say goodbye. It's
difficult for many people there. I mean, it was hard even that day to interview, A lot of people were just so emotional and...
Well, that day, certainly, I mean, that's like that kind of initial trauma emotion of experiencing something that's,
And now it's the moving on from it.
But now it's the how do I compartmentalize this now? I've never talked to a therapist in my life. And I think I'm scheduled to next week or this week. So we'll see how that goes. It might be a clusterfuck, but
It's always good.
I don't know if I need to unpack it with a stranger, but it's weird too. Like going home, like I said, like my wife is, she's emotional about it. And
So I'm sure in her mind she's thinking, what if it was you?
that, and also that we had an 8-year-old, and that there was a 9-year-old kid who lost his mom.
That's the hard part, is being able to not personalize something, really, especially when it's so close to you.
Yeah, and it's hard not to play the what if, because that gun was about to be pointed at me in the scene. You know? Was I about to get in a firefight with Alec Baldwin and we were shooting live rounds?
Right.
Were we about to like Swiss cheese each other? Fuck. That's why I'm like, who the fuck brought live rounds on my set? That's what I want to know.
In due time, we'll,
Yeah.
we'll have hopefully every question answered, but it does, you know.
No, I know it takes time and it
takes
takes
time.
due diligence, and that's why I was like, you need me out here to help and move the needle anyway. I'm on my way.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, definitely.
And thanks for taking this on. I know this is probably a monster for you guys, but thank you.
No, thank
Thank you
you.
for doing what you guys do.
I'll let you enjoy your day. I'm sure the ranch owners are probably out there. You might be able to.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna call production. Production said that they would call out there and clear security and let me
Yeah,
just
I know they were still working out there last week.
go
so.
walk the property. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's another film I think filming somewhere else
Yeah.
on the ranch as well, which goes quite well.
Okay.
All right.
You have any questions or anything, give us a call, man. I really appreciate you coming out and doing it so quickly.
Yeah. No. Again, I want to get this ball rolling as much as you guys. We can all move on.
Thank you for watching this super special interrogation featuring a Hollywood superstar A-list celebrity. Jensen had nothing to do with this crime, and he was never convicted or charged with any crimes in this case, but Alec and Hannah have both been charged. If you want to see the series on this case, check out this channel and check out my other channel, Crime Circus, because I have a whole playlist. I'll link those down below in the description if you're more interested in this case. If you want to support this channel, consider checking out my Patreon. I'll leave a link down below. Shout out to all my new Patreons. Shout out to my members. I appreciate you. Leave me a comment, smash the like button. You know how to support the circus, and I appreciate that. And until next time, remember to stay safe out there because you know it's a dangerous world.